You are listening to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast, where we strip away the noise, unleash our truth, and align with our highest self. I'm your host, Felicia Dom, certified life coach, Reiki practitioner, and chakra guide, here to help women find deep love and interconnection within themselves. This podcast is here to increase awareness, inspire your journey, and educate you as you reclaim your energy and rise fully into who you are. Check the show notes for links to my healing circle, coaching, and more ways to work with me. Now, let's dive into today's episode. You're listening to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast, and I am here with Max Sheffield. They have been telling stories that capture attention since 2018. As the founder of Max Wild Stories, they craft evocative brand narratives for those that are transforming lives and communities. Max's signature approach infuses storytelling strategies and narrative psychology to create transformative copy that makes ideal clients feel seen, not sold to. Being able to connect to stories is the pivotal moment through Max's struggles with trauma, abuse, and mental illness. In Max's free time, they consume science fiction and are learning to roller skate. Welcome to the podcast, and tell me, how is roller skating going for you?
So, falling as a 30-something-year-old and falling as a teenager are two different things. So, like when I was a kid, I could not wear knee pads. And let me tell you right now, if you're an adult considering to roller skate, do yourself a favor, get elbow pads, get knee pads, get all the things, because you can't just pick yourself up off the floor like you used to.
I feel that. I had gotten roller skates and I tried, or I should say roller blades. And it was like 3 years ago, and I tried, and I was like, yep, I'm done. It was like one and done. I was like, I'm not doing this.
So I started back because my friend did a 40-year birthday party at the roller rink and made it very nostalgic. Like we were kids, we ate the crappy pizza and everything. And my thought was like, oh, I did this as a teenager. This is going to be like riding a bike. And I get on so I strap up my skates and I get on the skating floor really quick. And it dawns on me, oh, I forgot how to turn. So I'm going straight and I'm going pretty fast because, again, I was very much overconfident. And I just freeze for a second, like, how do I turn? How do I turn? And so I just leaned my body and I'm like, it's not like riding a bike. You have to teach yourself again, which is why I put that in the bio, is I'm relearning really how to skate again.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Hopefully you don't have too many bruises from that. But before we dive into the questions today, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey and what brought you into the work that you're doing today and who you are.
So I feel like it depends. What's great about telling stories is the beginning is often subjective. And just listening back to my own bio, stories really truly were my escape when I was a young kid. Like I kind of talk a little bit. I had some childhood trauma when I was younger. My family was very much we don't talk about uncomfortable things. And it was like my inner world was my fantasy world to escape into. And so stories were really there as that way to just experience new worlds and new lives and to just develop my own values and my own principles. And even when I was being bullied as a kid, again, I didn't have friends. So my books were my friends. Which, don't worry, I did develop close friendships as I got older, but that was the root of it. And I was always knew that stories can change lives, and stories have changed my life. And unfortunately for me, I was pulled away from writing as a profession because so much of my family was like, nobody makes money writing. You need a day job. You can do that on your own time. You need to find a job that pays. And really the overarching theme of my life has been the push and pull between doing what I know I'm meant to do and doing what other people expect out of me. And I feel like and that's why I really enjoyed our previous conversation, because there's so many people I think can relate to that, of we forget what was really in ourselves to begin with. So again, even going back to the roller skating little story, that brought me joy as a child. And we start to lose that. And we start to maybe push it aside to be like, that's for children. And it's no, if roller skating brings me joy, even if it hurts sometimes when I fall, like there's still something about that it's like healing that inner child sense of myself. So that's really what started that as a young kid. But as I got older, I went into a field. I was in college during the recession. So I went into nursing. My mom's a nurse, my uncle's a nurse, my stepmother's a nurse. So many people in my family had done that, and it's, hey, you can graduate without any student debt and student loans, and you'll get a job after graduation. But oh man, I don't know if it was something inside my soul or what, but 2 months before graduation, when we were all studying for our boards together as a class, I'm like, I'm not meant to do this. And I'm like, it's really late to decide on that and figure that part out, Max. But it was like we were all like everyone was so stressed about passing. And I just like that wasn't like I wasn't stressed about that. I'm like, it will happen or it won't. I was unattached from it. Like still going to go through all the paces. And I've had my nursing license for 12 years now. And I do appreciate that was part of that journey. Because while it was me giving into fear, it was me giving into what maybe other people had wanted for me. There still is a lot of human connection and storytelling inherent in nursing. People are telling you their most vulnerable moments, and you are sitting there with them. And like often in the medical field, especially in the conventional medicine, Western medicine, the rush is to fix things. But when I worked specifically in pediatrics with disabled children, or when I worked in OBGYN and maybe I was helping moms through miscarriage, there is no fixing that. There is no, like, the presence and holding space and listening to the story is the medicine. And so that was a piece of that story that like really helped me see that full spectrum of our humanity. And so it's like weird that I started going into marketing. A lot of people find that is an interesting jump, but to me it's always been about how can we make people feel seen and understood.
I love that.
And whether I'm sitting there as a nurse in my scrubs or whether I'm like helping like coach and facilitate that narrative that service providers and founders have, that listening skill has been developed over a long period of time. So that's what brought me to that.
Oh my gosh. I love everything about your story. And I want to go back to that roller skating story because it reminded me we start to get older and we think that you're supposed to be like this stiff board and you don't have any play at all in you. And I remember I'd ride in with a coworker and one day he was like, "Where do you want to go for lunch?" And I was like, "I want to go to the playground and swing on a swing." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do." And he was like, "That is so childish." And I was like, "Let's go." And we went and he had so much fun. He was like, "This was the best lunch break." And I was like, "I told you, why do we have to have these boxes that we're in because we're an adult? I like to swing and I like to go down the slides. What's wrong with that?" But
Yeah.
that's what it reminded me of when you're saying that. And then I love that you tell stories because I feel like you sound like such an amazing storyteller. And I like that you help people with their stories. How I understand that you said it was from childhood, but how long have you professionally been in that space?
So I feel like a lot of journeys are not linear. As a nurse, I had also done some training and teaching hospitals and health systems how to use like the electronic charting
Mhm.
medical software. And I really liked that part of my job because I have to take this really dry, really boring. Think about teaching somebody how to chart a medication given in a computer record. There's probably not anything more boring than that.
Yeah.
I will be the first person. I will not defend how amazing that stuff has become. But it's like, how do I take something that is really complex and something that is boring, inherently dry, and make it fun and engaging and inject that like joy back into my own work? Because if you're bored, I'm bored. And if I'm bored, you're bored. Yeah. So that was the first inkling of, I think I want to be self employed because I was working with a bigger company, but I was a consultant. So that kind of set that like root. And then it wasn't really until I had been doing that for about 4 years that I had started feeling really burned out. It was like I'm neurodivergent, I'm ADHD, and I have realized looking back, this is what I like about storytelling is when you start connecting the dots in your own life, you start to gain a better awareness of yourself. And so for me, once a job has become routine, like I can do
Yeah.
it, like in my sleep, or it's just rote memorization for me. Once I have done that, it's now very depleting and it burns me out. And so I had gotten to that point with that particular job. So I had got my health coaching certification. Again, I wanted to be self employed, but I still was clinging to that medical expertise because that's all I had known. And I did that. And what was interesting about that is it took what I was talking about and it taught the technique of motivational interviewing, which
Mm.
is really it's really the core of how you help people change their behavior. Because you cannot think about the doctor that tells you to exercise more. Okay, how many people have actually done that because their doctor told them to?
Right.
Like literally 0 people. But it's not until, oh, somebody may have a heart attack or they have a loved one, like not to go too much into my family history, but someone very close to me stopped drinking because my son was born and they wanted to be around for my son. It's never somebody telling you, it's you deeply understanding your own motivation.
Yeah.
And that was such a pivotal part of my training. And I had decided to niche down and be like, I'm going to help other healthcare professionals who are burning out. That's going to be my niche because I was a nurse for 8 years and I did this and I'd spoken to so many health systems. But at the time, again, this is where the marketing brain kicks in. Nobody was willing to pay to overcome burnout. Not at that point. This was in 2017. This is before COVID. If I had done this during COVID, I think this
Oh,
could have
yeah.
been a very different story would have played out, I think. But like people like accepted that was just part of their life. Like how I had just accepted like I was never going to be a writer. Like we just accepted that.
Yeah.
And even with the training, like it just wasn't quite enough. But I was in a mastermind. I was speaking to other health and wellness professionals. And again, they were approaching marketing from this very dry, very jargon heavy, like footnotes. Think of how you would do an academic paper in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Like very just, I'm like, you're going to be putting your customers to sleep. And I wasn't like, I said that in a nice way, of course. But I was giving a lot of people feedback, like health and, hey, you're a PT. This is what, you work with women or you do pelvic PT. This is what people could be experiencing. How do we frame it in the way that they are thinking about it? And like, how do we use that motivational interviewing to uncover why they know they should change instead of us telling us, hey, do XYZ things and you will tackle your problem? How do you help them understand that the motivation is inside them all along?
Yeah.
And that was that bridge point where I'm like, oh, I really love working with other healers, transforming all of people who are transforming other people's lives and helping them bring that language into more engaging language and more like using storytelling, using psychology, using what we know about behavior change. And stories are how we retain information and we act upon it. Since prehistory, we have gathered around fires, right? We have shared stories and even the fairy tales, like the Grimm's fairy tales. The purpose was always to either teach children, hey, don't go into the woods because you could get eaten.
Yeah.
Don't do like that was a real problem hundreds of thousands of years ago. Like you were a kid, you could have been easy pickings for a tiger or something.
Yeah.
So that's always been about helping people remember the information and be able to act upon it. So it was really all of these just way out there far like dots that I eventually started to connect together into what I do now. So it's all, nothing is a waste. It's all there for a reason.
Yeah, I love that. I can understand that just coming into the space and being a newer entrepreneur myself and not really understanding that engagement part when I first started. And I was like, oh, this is how I always thought when I make my workshops, I want to get into the details and the nitty gritty and like the scientific aspect of it. And the more that I am out there talking to people and understanding, I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that part of it. Maybe a few, maybe a selected few that really want to maybe pursue it as a career or learn more about it. But majority of people just want to know how it helps them and how to do
Yep.
it.
Yep.
When you get too educational, I feel like you do lose people unless the education is like in that storytelling or engaging in some way that's exciting. So I love that you do that.
Or even like connecting it to analogies that we could all sink our teeth into. If
Yes.
you like if they're like I could explain how the brain works. That's not going to be super engaging. But if I'm like it's if you were to do X, Y, I'm not even I don't
Yeah.
have an L. And you are like, oh, okay, now I can
Yes.
contextualize it in my own lived experience. That's part of it. It's not necessarily that they don't care. They don't know how to contextualize it into their own life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is the piece. And that's where I think storytelling comes in to really just help boost that along and help people realize, oh, this is something that is possible for me to do. Because I think another piece of that is you see other people who have ran the marathon, who've written the book, who have done the things that you want to do. And you're like, oh, there's just something special about them.
Mm.
I'm never gonna I'm never gonna run a marathon because I can't wake up at 5 a.m. And then you hear stories about people who are like, couldn't wake up at 5 a.m. I had 3 babies at home and this is
Yeah.
what I did. And they tell their story. And that doesn't mean that it's always gonna work exactly like that for you. But the fact that they're like, "Oh, they took a different path to get to the same result,"
Yeah.
that means that I can find my own path to that result. It doesn't have to look like everybody else's path.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. That's such good advice, and it gets me like excited because I always think about like how can I make this big thing that I just discovered into the most easiest way for people to digest it, and so I feel like that's a really exciting place to be within the scope of trying to educate somebody on something. So when did you in your journey realize that you were playing small or holding yourself back, and how did you move through that?
So, I feel like this is an ongoing process. I think that that's part of the misconception is, right? Is you're like, once I've done the therapy or I've done the healing work or I've done XYZ, I'm now in my zone of genius. I'm now where I'm meant to be. And I feel like every new insight and realization in my own life has unlocked something else. But the really core of it has been about fear. And it's been about how am I going to be perceived? How am I going to and I'm the kind of person that you can probably tell. I'm the loud person in the party. I'm always the person who is extroverted and willing to reach out to people, but it really wasn't until I'm on this podcast because for my own self, that was part of what was holding me back. I didn't want to be perceived in like a lasting way where 5 years down the road, I'm not going to be the same person. And someone's going to find this episode and they're going to find something to be angry about and write me or like I will look dumb or I don't even listen to myself back sometimes on podcasts just because sometimes I don't like the sound of my voice. So when you complimented my voice, I'm like, it's not as bad as I think. It's just
Yeah.
we are our own worst critics,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
And a lot of that is, at least for me, it's my mom's voice in my head. It's my grandmother's voice in my head. There's one point where I was told as a teenager, you can't do anything. And I repeated those patterns even in my own relationships. I was in relationships that were very like overly critical to the point of being abusive because that was how it was expected to be treated. So I think the first time where I realized like, hey, I'm playing small was really leaving my marriage and being like, no, I deserve better than this. This is
Yeah.
not how I deserve to be treated. So that was like that first true. And then even before that, I came out as non-binary gender fluid. So I'm LGBTQ. So like it's just like that helped to like unlock a little bit of my identity. And then over here, okay, I need to leave my marriage. And then coming back to self-employment after taking a break during the pandemic. And this aspect of being self-employed is such this people it's almost become a cliche now, right? That it's like this the biggest self-development journey that you will take is entrepreneurship. And it definitely comes back because you are only as successful. And I would say whether you're self-employed or a professional, you're only as successful as you will allow yourself to
Mm.
be. And it's easy in the corporate world when, somebody else is signing your checks to maybe project that. Oh, my boss doesn't think I'm worth having a promotion. But and as an entrepreneurship, it is only you.
Yes.
And you are the one looking yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm only as successful as you are going to let me be. And then you're looking at yourself because I'm the one that is ultimately responsible for everything. So it was really realizing that I am not where I could be. Like I have been doing this for long enough, but I have held myself back for years. And it's really not through the last year that I realized, hey, this is not who I know I can be. And we talked about this in a little bit when we were getting to know each other, but a big lightning bolt for me was going to my son's school to go to his IEP meeting that we had been waiting for 2 years for. And my long COVID, my POTS was triggered bad enough that I felt unconscious in somebody's front yard. And luckily, Good Samaritans found me and realized there was something very wrong and helped me. And I just remember, and so what people don't know about being unconscious is there's different levels. People think that you're asleep,
Mm.
but with my, at least with my experience with falling unconscious due to POTS, you cannot speak, you cannot move, you cannot even open your eyes, but you're aware of everything going on around you.
Oh.
You can hear
Ooh.
everything. I know, isn't that?
Not
It's
fun.
really scary. That's very scary. Like, that is very scary to have because you're like, because my thought process at the time, I'm laying there, I can't do anything. And I'm like, what if they think I'm drunk and they call the police or something? What if
Yeah.
they think I'm just a drunk person in their front yard at 2 p.m.? But luckily, no one had that thought. Like, they were rightfully worried about me. But yeah, you can think everything in your head. Like, you hear people talking about you. It's very weird. There was actually one point where I was on a camping trip and this had happened, and I could feel the flies landing
Oh,
on it,
no.
and I cannot move. So my friends were luckily, like, my good friend was like
Oh
trying
my
to wave the
gosh.
flies, but you can't move, so you feel them on you, and it's a very out of body experience. But that last most recent time where that had happened near my son's school, I'm like, you can't keep doing this, Max. You are, you can't just push through. That is not how that works. Like, whatever you're doing, you need to scale back in a very big way. And I basically cut my business to like the barest minimum. Like, all of last year after that point was keep the business alive and keep my child alive. It was very much like I cannot take on anything more than that because I just needed that pause to look at my life personally, professionally, spiritually, and be like, what is missing? What do I need to do? And it was that pause that gave me the clarity of you're doing to avoid feeling, and you're going from a reactive place. And if you're
Mhm.
going to be reactive your whole life, and we all are, right? Because we clock in, we go this, we go pick up our kids from school, we like, there's an inherent part of autopilot that comes with daily life.
Yeah.
But if you don't take that intentional step back, that's where it's okay, that can put you so far out of alignment that you don't know how you got there to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you mind explaining a little bit of POTS for any of the listeners that is not familiar with that?
Sure. So it is a POTS is 4 letters. That is postular orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So what that actually means in reality, because that's a bunch of nonsense words, unless you're a medical professional, it means that with sudden position changes, like if I wake up in the morning or I get up after sitting for a long time, or if I'm doing exercise or some sort of exertion, I will get very, like, my heart rate and blood pressure spike to like a dangerous degree. You'll get dizzy or vertigo. And if you keep going, you will pass out because basically the automatic parts of your nervous system, because you're nervous, you're not manually breathing, you're not manually pumping the blood in your heart. That's all part of your automatic part of your nervous system. And for people with POTS, that is completely out of whack. It's
Mm.
not doing what it's supposed to. And I believe, and this is came from my cardiologist as well, that it is a lot of people who are getting diagnosed with this it may be a part of long COVID. So
Mm.
for any folks that are dealing with some strange things after having COVID, definitely go to your doctor and talk to them about it. But it's not abnormal to have some of these long lasting effects. And for me, it was on a delayed, like it was like maybe 6 months to a year after getting COVID where I really
Oh.
started feeling this. So it was very strange. And I probably wouldn't have connected it to COVID at all had my cardiologist not said, we're having a lot of people come in after getting COVID having this. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, I wasn't having it before that.
Oh
So
my
yeah.
goodness. So do
So
you find like that de-stress and how you had taken that break, did you find that really did help with that nervous system and your just own stress levels?
yeah, so I think it just helped me to understand when I was, because we all are, especially right now in 2025, right? We're all very dysregulated in our nervous systems in general. And so immediately after that incident, I basically worked from bed or my couch for 3 weeks. We still got to pay bills. So I was still working to a point, but I was not going to networking. I was not going to community events. Like I was literally doing everything I can from my couch. And it wasn't until I let myself take things at my own pace
Mm.
and be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Like, I can't go speak at your event because I was speaking multiple times per week before that. And that's what had done it is that took a lot of energy from me,
Yeah.
which is why I do like podcasts because it's like I'm still doing that, but in a way that honors my
Yeah.
energy and my capacity and things like that. So I'm still getting that message across, but in a way that is now honoring and where I am and who I am and what's going on with me.
Oh, I love that you're still, you said, doing everything that feels aligned, but in a space that is more safe for your nervous system, for you, and it feels good. That's so important because I think that sometimes we can get in this like black or white thinking where it's, oh, if I can't do this, then I'm not able to still get myself out there. And you're finding those other avenues and ways to get your voice and your message across. So I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, there's always a third option. Like part of me, I'm non-binary, identify with being masculine and being feminine. I go back and forth between those, but it's like anytime you think something is A or B, there's almost always a secret third option you have not considered.
I've always liked Alok Van Minim. I don't know if you're familiar with their work. But
No.
oh
I
my
have to look it up.
gosh,
Okay.
the description is like poet and comedian, and I started listening because I thought I was like, "Oh, they're really funny. This is entertaining." But then it's poetic, and I started listening to them on
Mm.
podcasts, and I'm in love with this person. I just absolutely love the content, and
After our conversation, feel free to link me because I want to go
yeah.
look them up.
Yeah. When I started the Pride Month, I did a podcast and I put a bunch of the LGBTQ members in there that I follow and that I really like. And there's so many more, but those were the like top ones that came to my mind and they are in there. But yeah, definitely look them up because I feel like what you're saying is resonating with some of the messaging because it was first like a gender thing. Like I want to get this point across. We don't have to be binary and all these things,
Mhm.
but then transformed. And now they're talking about like, where are all the other structures that we have that are binary and how can we look at them differently? And I'm like,
Yep.
I'm like loving this. So yeah, I'll definitely send
Absolutely.
you and
It's like the Matrix. Like, you don't necessarily have to be trans or be non-binary to understand. Like, everything is in a false binary. Once
Mhm.
you understand that, I feel like knowing that means, at least for me, like I was actually, even though I was raised as a girl in a feminine body, it's once I realized like I don't have to subscribe to one or the other. I actually started reading romance novels. I love Bridgerton. And I don't think I would have allowed myself to embrace
Mhm.
feminine parts of myself until I had realized liking feminine things does not make you a woman and liking masculine things
Yeah.
does not make you a man. Like we're all here
Yeah.
to just experience life as we need to without, again, just without being saddled with expectations, period, much less
Right.
gendered ones.
Yeah. I do. I truly believe in that, and I have felt that even when I was younger. But I remember being younger and being like, I just wish I was a boy because I wanted to do the boy stuff. I always wanted to hang out with the boys and do the boy things, and it wasn't girly of me, or it was, and that's where mine comes from. And as I got older, I'm like, no, girls can do this stuff too, and I had that. But then even now, I think that if we look at like this binary aspect, you can find it in so many different things. And just today, I was like, oh my gosh, I really like these scents for men that
Mhm.
my fiance doesn't like. And I'm like, "Ugh, I wish he would just wear the stuff that I like." And then I was like, why don't I just wear it? Like, why can't I wear it? I literally thought of that today. So I feel so much learned structure in this. I always think of a little box that we put everything in. And it's really hard to unravel that and take a step back and really have that awareness in so many aspects of our lives. And it's a great start with the gender, but I think that there's so many other ways that we can look at that. And yeah, just giving myself at least grace to be open to saying, I'm learning still.
And we just talked about that from like the professional side of things. Of this is you're not expected to go into business for yourself. At least my
Mhm.
generation was not. Maybe that might be different for younger people, but it's there's so many things that it's is that what I want?
Yeah.
Or is that what I have been told that I should want? Or is it something that I don't like? Or is it something I was told not to? And I think that so much of my 20s was spent parsing through of is this part of me or is this what my family wanted? And I like me moving away from Florida to Kansas City, again, having that space, like that physical space away from my family. I don't know if I would have been able to fully discover that for myself had I not had some sort of, not that everybody has to move away, but like just having some separation between hearing that voice for
Yeah.
yourself and being able to discover your own voice.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what kind of advice you would give to somebody that's trying to find out what kind of story. I think we all tell ourselves stories, but if they're trying to
100%.
figure out what is my story and where do I go and how can I be more creative within that aspect of my life? Is there like one piece of advice that you could give to somebody that's trying to like maybe rewrite their story?
So I think a lot of it comes down to letting your like turning off the censor, turning off that like that inner critic as much as possible and just doing stream of consciousness writing, like finding journal prompts if that's something that helps you, doing morning pages, doing some sort of journaling in any way because once you start to and usually that at least for me, whenever I've done that, like at first the critic is there, but like you hit page 2 and you've outrun the censor, like with your fingers and with your hands or with your typing. Like you have gone through that point. Or you start off with like with a journaling prompt, like the answer you're supposed to have. And then
Mhm.
if you keep letting yourself write deeper and go, why do I think that? Why do I think that? And keep investigating and uncovering, you'll start to really get to some really like the deeper intuition of who, you know, who you are and being able to connect all the little pieces of your life into an overarching narrative. I think no matter again whether you are going to have to market yourself or not, being able to connect the dots, being able to see what led you to where you are now. To be able to see what were those pivotal moments in your life where you had
Mhm.
that choice or were at that crossroads, being able to talk through that and be like, oh, here's my personal values. We should all be thinking about that. What do I prioritize? What do I find important? What do I want to focus on this year? Picking a word of the year and journaling about that. Again, there's many, I think, avenues a person can take, and it'll be up to them, but letting that just like that subconsciousness be in the driver's seat for a little while. Oh, like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be forever. It can be like in just a 30, like setting a timer for 15 minutes, setting a timer 30 minutes, however much time you have, and just seeing what you come up with and just seeing and highlighting the phrases that really resonate back to you. And the more you do that, I think the more you become comfortable understanding your own story, being able to tell it and share it with others, and just listening to other people's stories and finding the commonalities.
Yeah. Oh, such good advice. So when you're feeling maybe disaligned or not in the best spirits, what is something that you do to really connect back to yourself?
So, journaling can be one. I'm not going to say that. I just said that. But for me, I'm very much because I know about myself and I know like that I have a little bit of a different wired brain. I am very much rooted in smell and sound. I find a scent that is soothing, either essential oil or a candle or something to that effect. And I'll put on some sort of like soundscape. It could be binaural beats, it could be lo-fi, it could be something like that. But like different environmental stimuli that kind
Mhm.
of bring myself back into my body. And that is really what just helps me kind of recalibrate. Sometimes I'll journal during that time, sometimes I won't. Sometimes just vibe and just sit there and listen to it. And it just helps me refocus and not let all the noise in.
Yeah. Oh, such good advice. I think that's I was waiting for you to make a joke and be like, "I put on heavy metal." No. But no, I love that because I
Sometimes I'm putting on
Mm.
Madonna or Whitney Houston and I'm dancing in my
Yeah,
kitchen while my
the
coffee's
vibe.
brewing. So
Yeah.
again, it's whatever helps me get back into my body. So dancing is one of them. Don't Like I said, only roller skate if you feel like you feel comfortable in your balance, but
Yeah. So I ask everybody this at the end of our conversation, but what does unleashed and aligned mean to you personally?
being unleashed to me is, again, the you have put fear, insecurity, your doubt, your all of those things. You cannot fully get rid of them, but they are very firmly in that back seat. Being unleashed is I am in the driver's seat of my own life. I'm not letting those external factors tell me what it is I can and can't do. And with the aligned aspect to me, it's like I have that inner wisdom in myself, in my body, to know what path is right for me. And if I start to go down a path that is wrong, I will know, hey, it's not the fear that's telling me I'm going down the wrong path. It's my inner knowing, it's my alignment that is telling me, hey, we have to change. So I think that we can often, not to get too far off topic, I think we can often mistake the two of,
Yeah.
oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable, this is my intuition. And sometimes it's your fear and your ego and your
Mhm.
insecurity being like, oh, you're about to do something really scary. And we're like, oh, my alignment, my intuition told me not to. It's hard to parse that out. So it's like having a continual practice of being able to distinguish between the two and have that somatic experience and be able to know how it feels in your body. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, is there anything else that you feel led to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I'm trying to think. I think we covered a lot of different topics. I feel like there's so many different rabbit holes we went
Yeah, it
through.
was amazing.
No, I really appreciate your time. And like I said, it's don't let resistance get in your way. If I had to just sum up everything that don't let other people's ideas for you get in the way.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Max. I will link all of your information in the show notes. And I think the work that you're doing is beautiful and you're so passionate about it, and you can see that. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicia.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review so that we can connect with more people to develop our mind, body, and spirit.